Good morning. Another beautiful day in paradise. I got up early this morning and got started just at sunrise. There were a group of guys in the campground that came out to watch it rise because we're right at the Belly River cabin, ranger cabin, big pasture, horses, and so it's a big clear area to get a good view of the sunrise. And had a great time last night. There were two groups of guys there, a bunch from Denver that all went to college together, kind of a hiking reunion, and then three guys from Indianapolis. And you meet so many cool people out here. That's half the trip is all the people you meet, and it's kind of disappointing this year because you're not meeting the international travelers. You know, this administration has kind of built a wall around this country, and the Canadians aren't even coming down this year, our best friends to the north. And it makes a difference. Otherwise, you meet people from all over the world out here. I'm sure the long trails this year are the same way. A lot of international hikers aren't coming. And it's just a shame. Of course, the Canadians, they don't care because they've got bigger mountains and bigger bears. So a lot of people come out here and they want to hike what they call the loop. So you leave Mini Glacier, go through the Ptarmigan Tunnel, which we're going to hit pretty close this morning. A lot of their first stop is right down here. So this is Elizabeth Lake. That's Foot Campground right at the end there. And that's right on the trail. So a lot of people like to stay there. It's hard to get into. Hard to do that loop just because a lot of people want to do it and fill up the campgrounds around it. But if you don't mind doing the miles, you know, and again, once you get into the computer a few days, things will start opening up for you. So if you've got the time, you can either try for Elizabeth Lake Foot, which is at that end of the lake, or that turquoise jewel right up there in the valley. It's a dead-end trail, but, you know, it's a few miles up there, but it's Helen Lake, a beautiful campsite. Not many people go there. I mean, you can stay there a couple of days. That's how little it's used. Most of these sites, you can only stay a night. Anyway, this is a beautiful valley, and to spend some time here is well worth the price of admission. And then again, you know, if you went up to Helen for a couple of days and came back, got on the main thoroughfare, you're into the computer enough that you can probably get the sites you want after that. Just a thought. So at my age, you have to forgive me. Sometimes my head and ass aren't wired together and I don't finish my thought. So I didn't really say what the route was for this loop I was talking about. So the route is leaving Mini, coming over here to this valley, up the Belly River, over Stony Indian, which we've done the last couple days in these videos. Then when you get to the bottom of Stony Indian, instead of going right to Goat Haunt, you go left and up the Waterton Valley, the Highline Trail. Most people try and get into 50 Mountain, which is the campground up that route. It's very hard to get into. And then you go to Granite Park Chalet, and then you go down the Swift Current Valley, back to Mini. It's all spectacular. Well, it's a long way, so I can do that in 3 days, but it's not fun. It's hard. And so what I did one year was I got to Mokowanis, where we stayed 2 nights ago, and then I had to get Mokowanas all the way to Granite Park, which is a hump. And because I couldn't get into 50. And then from Granite Park, it's just a cakewalk down the Swift Current Valley back to Minnie. So the big day was that. And I stayed in Mokowanas, got up at dark 30 with my headlamp, got over Stony Indian early morning, started up the trail, and I see a clown parade coming out, heading for goat hunt, and they're in a hurry. And usually you see people on the trail and, you know, they're friendly. At least they're going to give you a good morning. But this first couple, I thought they were a couple, man and woman. Beautiful day, nothing. Just blew right past me. And then I see a whole train of people. Nobody has a backpack, and they're coming out of, like, from the 50 mountain area. And then I understand it. I see a uniformed ranger and another guy in civilians, and then a horse packer with a string of horses with all their gear. And so the ranger stopped me, which is his first mistake, and asked to see my permit, and I showed it to him. And then he accused me of not staying in Mokowanas. There's no way I could be that far that early in the morning, you know, it's maybe 10 o'clock. And I assured him I did. In fact, I said, have you ever heard of Bob Marshall? There's a whole complex named after him just south of the park here. I said, they say Bob used to do 40 miles a day with a 60-pound pack. I thought all you rangers could do that. Anyway, he didn't believe me. It doesn't matter. His second mistake was to tell me he was his name was Kyle Johnson. I still remember that. He ran the backcountry in Glacier National Park, he said, and I thought, perfect, because I tried to go to the headquarters and talk to this guy many times, and I'd only get a phone call from the receptionist desk. He wouldn't come down a flight of stairs to talk to me, so I thought, this is the guy. So now I've got him. I've got a captive audience. So my first complaint was that that year I had lost my old man half-price camping. You know, once you retire, you get a Golden Eagle pass, and so I used to pay half price for my sites out here. Well, they took that away that year. But he didn't even know it. He said, no, we didn't. And then the other guy in Civies, who must have been a park employee, also said, yes, we did. So I told Kyle he should go back to the office and read the manual. Now what happened was they were having a big meeting and camping with this horse packer at 50 Mountain. And a big storm was coming in, and they were all running for goat hunt to get out of the park. You know, they left a day or two early from whatever this meeting camping trip was. And the two people that weren't very friendly that passed me were the park superintendent and the Secretary of the Interior. Well, then Kyle made the third mistake, which I have to say I kind of entrapped him in conversation, because I hear this all the time out here. I've heard it for decades. When I complain about, you know, I'm trying to tell them that they should have people check in. You make a reservation in April, check in 5 days in advance or lose your reservation, because so many sites stay empty because people don't show up. They're not getting their money back. They just don't show up. And he proceeded to tell me that they had a 92% occupancy rate in the campsites, backcountry campsites. And I said, 92, right? So last year was 92. Yes. And I said, do you know where that data comes from? He said, we've done studies. I said, no, you've done one study. And if you haven't seen it, it's at the library right next to your office down there at Apgar, West Glacier, because I've been to the library and I found it. And it was done in 1997. And you're right, it was 92%. And you guys like that data so well, you've been using it for decades. You know, you switch it up once in a while, call it 86, even maybe 99 one year, but 92 every year. I said, when you give orientation to your permit writers, that must be part of it, because they all have that number. Anyway, I think Kyle wanted to get rid of me, And you know, talk about park safety. Now, Kyle could have said, you know, we just left 50 and this big storm's coming in, so you don't have to go all the way to Granite. You can stay there. But I think Kyle wanted me to die from hypothermia by then. And I would have stayed at 50 if I wanted to, but I went on to Granite, and it was a straight wind, hail, sleet storm, and I was pretty hypothermic when I got there. But again, you got to be prepared when you come out here. You got to know what you can do. You got to have the right gear, because if something happens to you, the cavalry might not come for a while, and you could be in real hurt locker while you're waiting, or worse. To show you where we're headed, going right up into that low point of that pass right there. You can see the trail just above that snow line, and that's where the tunnel is. So they built a tunnel to bring stock through, and it's very narrow, but you can get a horse through it, pack horse. It's a long climb out of Elizabeth Lake, but there's our hole right over there. You can just barely see it. Looks like a little mouse hole. That's where we're headed. Once you get through there, it opens up into another beautiful valley, and it's all downhill to Mini Glacier. Just to prove that not everybody out here is leave no trace, and a lot of assholes do come to the parks. Here we've got DABN, BB, and KI, and Cal, all assholes. So it's about 11:45, and you know what that means, kids. It's PACKTOTER story time. When you get to be my age, you have lots of stories. And if I've told you this one before, don't stop me. I want to hear it again. Anyway, I put my pack down by the tunnel here. There is light at the end of the tunnel. So anyway, I was on a loop like this one year, and I got down to Swift Current Motor Lodge, which is at the end of this trail, and having my huckleberry ice cream out on the porch, and a guy sitting next to me asked me where I'd been, and he said, "Gosh, my brother-in-law should come out and hike with you. His wife won't let him come out here and hike because she's afraid he might get eaten by a bear." And oh, perfect. There it is. That has everything to do with this story. That's a Pulaski. That's a pickaxe, I guess. It's close to a Pulaski. Another story. Look up Pulaski. Mr. Pulaski had a very interesting life. Got the whole place to myself today. Anyway, the brother-in-law shows up, and I look him over and think I can outrun this guy. So I told him he'd come out. I'll be out here all next summer. Come on out if you want, and I'll take you on a 7-day loop. And he said he would. So the next summer we're out here, and I told my wife, I said, that guy's not coming, because that year there had already been a mauling, a death in Yellowstone by a grizzly, by day hikers, and by a very touristy area by the waterfall, and a mauling out here. Both made national news, and I said, his wife's not going to let him come out here and hike with me. So the guy shows up though, and first thing he told me is, he said, I almost didn't come because my wife says, you don't even know him, he might be an axe murderer. And I'm a lightweight backpacker. I don't even carry an axe. And so anyway, we got up here to the tunnel, and I knew that usually this guy's laying around because, you know, this tunnel gets open late and there's a lot of snow and ice, and so usually there's some tools here. So I took the axe and I told him to take a picture of me and send it to his wife. Anyway, we're going down into this valley. And we're going to hang a left through there and end up at Mini Glacier, Swift Current, Motor Lodge, and the campground that they're reconstructing this year. I'm not sure if the Motor Lodge is open or not, but I'm hoping to get some food there. If not, the main lodge will be open. Probably better food too. The concessionaire out here, I think, is Eggs and Terra. I call it Eggs and Terrible because you buy a hamburger and it's like a rubber chicken they've put in a microwave. I'm grousing. It'll be interesting to see. I know they're working on the campground at Mini, and I'm just wondering if they have that trail system closed off. I mean, this is August and this is a popular trail, and you can see all the way down the valley there's not a soul coming up here. Usually there'd be dozens of hikers hiking up to see the tunnel. It's either that or they've had a bear encounter, and when they have that, then they shut the trail down for 3 days until they haven't seen the bear again. And I would think if they did that, the Belly River Ranger would have gone up to Red Gap Pass and put a sign out. But I did see a pink sign there this morning, but it was tucked behind the regular trail sign. Nothing was closed off, so it'll be interesting to see when we get down here this afternoon what's going on. So this is my campsite for the 5th night. This should be enjoyable. It's like a postage stamp size site. I'm definitely not going to leave my gear here while I go get something to eat. Probably be gone when I get back. So I get to sleep with the massive humanity tonight.